I, like everybody else, saw the word fasting written, and you'd never give it any thought. And when I got the diagnosis of cancer, I looked at possible cures. And when I came across Breuss, this German doctor, the Breuss Cancer Cure, and his remedy was 42-day fast. And when I read the book, and when I got the diagnosis on the Saturday, by the following Saturday I'd already read 10 books. How do you cure cancer? And one of them was the Breuss Cancer Cure, and that one made sense to me. He says, how can you, the doctor's remedy was chop it out, or irradiate it, or chemotherapy it. And on the back page of Breuss's book says, how can you heal an organism if you cut half of it away and throw it away? And that to me made so much logical sense. And so he said, well, if you go on a 42-day fast, you will starve the cancer. You will also lose a lot of weight. You won't necessarily lose your energy, and you'll lose a lot of weight, you'll feel much better, and you'll come out of it and the cancer will be gone. And it made sense to me. And when you read the book, it's only a short, maybe 120, 130, 40 pages. It was logical, so I thought I'd do it. And then I did the preparation. Without the preparation, I think the fast may have been too hard. Mm-hmm. But I did the 45 days of preparation where I just totally minimised the intake of food. And then the fast was an absolute joy. And you do go through mental stages, and by the time you get to day 32 or 33 or 34, you don't think the way you thought on day one. And I have difficulty putting that into words. It's like I have difficulty describing India. It's an experience. You've got to live the experience, and then you'll understand it. It's a bit like if you are totally in love with somebody, that love can be so strong, and the only other person that can understand it is somebody who loves the same way. Mm-hmm. And all the words on paper, they don't describe anything. They might look all right, but it's the experience of actually living it through your heart. So the fast was wonderful.
How much did you weigh before, and how much did you
When I first started, I was probably about 97, 98 kilos, which was carrying a bit, but most of my adult life I was around about 85 to maybe 90, generally about 85. And then because of circumstances I put on weight, and I was eating a lot of junk food, and I was drinking a lot of very nice wine. So over a period of a few years the weight crept up a kilo at a time. So at this stage I was about the 97, 98 mark, and when I did the 45-day detox I lost about 6 kilos, so I was down to about 92, 93. Then on the 42-day fast I went from 93 down to 66, which is I think 27 kilograms.
Did you used to weigh yourself regularly?
No, not really. So near the end I did, because in the end all this was disappearing. Mm-hmm. The valley disappeared, and when you don't eat there's no movement, there's no noises. And it just disappears and that flattens out. And because you're that big, the skin stretches and the skin started to sort of
loosen
hang
up.
a little bit, loosen up and hang there. Not much. I've seen people who've been very, very overweight and then they have to have operations to get rid of that. Well, that's not me. Because I was only briefly up there near 100. As I say, most of my time I was down about 85.
Did you also feel the loss of muscle?
No. I didn't feel weak or, no. Well, I've never been a muscular person. I don't do weights and those sorts of things. I mean, the muscles are there for working, whatever I did.
You could still feel
The muscles were still there. They're probably stronger now. Well, right now I'm about 75, 76 kilos now, but they're stronger now than they were back then. But I didn't know. I just noticed that the body lightened. And when I got into the last 5 or 10 days, the whatever was going on there was very light. And I find difficulty with the words to describe it. It was very light. And you almost feel as if you're floating most of the time. That's near the end, not the beginning. The beginning was a novelty. I found it, I've never done this. I'm not going to eat. And people would look at me as if it's strange. And even there, very rarely do I mention it, but when I say something to people, I say, no, this this bloke didn't eat for 42 days. And I think it's strange, but we don't need food. I mean, we need food as medicine. And if we look at food, it tastes so good, it looks so good, it smells so good, so we have one dessert, and second, and a third, and a fourth, and a fifth, and so we grow. And because it's so tasty and so good, but we don't need that to live. We need a very minimal amount. So if we choose wisely, and if we chew, that was one of the greatest revelations, not from the fast, but later on. If we chew each mouthful many times, 100, 200, 300 times, you eat so little and you feel so good. Yeah, so, I don't know.
And during the fast, you were not bound to bed. You were still doing everything.
I was doing everything. I was walking for the first 32 to 35 days. No, the last 10 days. Say from today 32. Up till then, I was still walking 10 kilometres every day. Now, I missed a couple of times, but generally 6 out of 7 days of the week I would walk 10 k's. And I was also doing that work for my friend, which was involving all those many miles of driving, and then picking up all that abalone and putting it on the truck and then unloading it.
So you drove yourself?
I drove myself, yeah. It was not a problem. And the longest drive was probably about 650 there and 650 back. So about 1,300 k's, roughly that.
In one day?
Oh yeah, well, it took about 15 hours, something like that, maybe a bit more.
And that was the beginning of the fast?
No, this was about week 4. And I sort of did it on and off for the first 3 or 4 weeks, and then in week 4, which was about day, say, 28 to 32, 33, I did 6 of those long ones in 7 days. And I then said to Baden, I said, look, this is getting a bit tiring. I'm not eating, but I take my water, my tea and all the thermoses, and I'd have, because what I used to do was I drank my 3 litres of pure water on and off during the day, and then from 6 in the morning till 6 at night, every hour on the hour, I would drink generally a cup of tea. So some days
Not black tea?
No, there was specific teas which are recommended through the Breuss Cancer Cure book. And some days, that's it. So if you have those 10 drinks or 12 drinks, you've got 5 litres there already, because I was doing it in the 500ml mug. So I was, the busiest days, drinking, I would drink up to 8 litres of liquid. And in the beginning you go to the toilet a lot, but after a while it balances itself out. And we don't run every 5 or 10 minutes. You actually go at a normal time. So I didn't do what most people would probably do on an adventure like that, is keep notes every 5 minutes. I probably shouldn't. And that's why sometimes I think I'll do it again, but this time it will be different. I was amazed at how disciplined I was. For those 6 months, from the diagnosis until, say, in May, June, until I had my second biopsy in December, 6 or 7 months, I'm amazed at how disciplined I was. Everything was done so methodically. I mean, cancer tends to frighten me.
So what did the biopsy show?
Well, the second one showed nothing.
And the first one?
The first one showed the cancer, and he then wanted to do all those wonderful things, cutting up and so on. The second one, because I'd done all this, and I did it. More importantly, I think it was the stuff that I did in there. I did a lot physically, right? Doing a 42-day fast is a fair amount physically, but it was more the stuff that I did in my head. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that near the end, because a lot of the test was blood reading as well, and in end of October, early November, all the blood readings went the wrong way. Mm. I finished my fast on 25th of September, and I had the first of the blood readings, I think the 3rd or 4th of October. And instead of going, I thought I'd be eliminated. There'd be no more PSA, nothing. I thought it would reduce, but it went up. It went up another 40%. And I thought, oh shit. And my first thought was, I've wasted 6 months. I should have listened to the doctor and do the surgery. But luckily that was on a Friday. Then I spent a weekend away on a meditation thing, and I got talking to a fellow from Monash University who actually lectures on mind-body medicine. Mm-hmm. And I had a couple of good long talks to him, and I came back on the Monday. I said, no, I've done the right thing. Mm-hmm. And so then I had another blood reading a few days later, and that was also went up about 30%. And I thought, uh-oh. But by then I decided, no, I'll empty this. And honestly, from about middle of November to middle of December, when I had the next blood reading and the next biopsy, I actually got rid of so much, and you could feel it as if the skin was peeling off. There was just attitudes and thoughts about this construction, which was me. We all do me. We construct me, and we think me is real. Me is not real at all. We've constructed me, and then you've got to let it go. And I could actually feel it coming off. It was a physical sensation. And then I had the next blood reading, next biopsy, and the doctor said, I'm sorry, but I can't find any cancer in there. I'm not saying it's not there,
He said,
but
I'm sorry.
Can't find it.
He said, I'm sorry.
He actually said that, I can't find any cancer. And the joy, you go, oh, the release.
Can I just say, with the coming out of the fast, was it difficult to go back into eating, or how did you handle that?
Well, I didn't want to eat. I handled the coming out of it by eating porridge. For the first week I ate a bowl of porridge in the morning. Got to understand?
So how did you break the fast? What was
porridge.
the first meal?
Well, I finished on the 25th of September. On the 26th I had a bowl of porridge. Only a small one.
So you didn't start?
No, I kept water. No, I still kept drinking the tea and the water. But I added the porridge. Okay. And probably at the end of, near the end of 5 or 6 days, I added stewed apples. And then I think by about the middle of the second week, I had some steamed fish, mashed potatoes, all soft stuff, so that whatever went down was soft and there was no lumps. I didn't want the stomach to work. Mm-hmm. So, like, I've been drinking liquid for so long, so I only put in soft stuff. But I wasn't hungry. It's surprising, it's just not hungry. Then it took me probably... You've got to understand, I was 66 kilos on 25th of September. I think when I started eating, I think December 25th, when we had the family Christmas do, I don't think I was much more than about 70 kilos. I hardly put it, because I wasn't hungry. There was no need to eat.
But did you feel energy?
Once I added that first 4 or 5 kilos to my body, I felt much stronger, much stronger. And that tiredness of the last 10 days or so of the fast disappeared, because I put some, I guess, nourishment into the body. And then for a long time, for probably a year or two, I stayed on about 71, 72. And then I started eating more. I think I got lazy. And the more I said, I've beaten this, I'm okay now. And so then I started eating more dried fruits and stuff, which I wasn't eating. And then I'd eat, I didn't go back to all of it, but I was eating greater quantities as well. And then slowly the weight started going up to 75, 76, and it got up to about 78, 79. I said, no, this is ridiculous. You know? And so 6 months ago, when I left Australia, I was about 78, 79 kilos. And then in India and Croatia, the food was unbelievable. Oh, such food and such good wine, which I hadn't touched for 3 years. And then I crept up, and then luckily in Malaysia it all went down, down back to about 75, 76 now. I think what we need to do as human beings is stop eating until the body stops losing weight. And then you know that's your natural weight. And then just eat a little bit, you'll naturally go up, but not too much.
You were doing the fast and 42 days. On the 42 days, did you say, right, this is the day I have to stop? Or was there something in your body that tell you, well, I want to go and eat?
No, there was nothing. No, there was no impulse to eat. There was no impulse to eat. I looked at it as a program, because I kept notes on it in the sense that I had the 42 days marked out on a paper which I drew up, and then I'd go from morning till night when I'd tick off when I had my water or my tea, and whichever it was, because there were different types. There was 4 or 5, 6 different types of teas, and some you'd have once, other times you'd have twice, and so on. So I ticked them off, and I had this card for 42 days, and only because that's what it was, a 42-day program. To day 42 and day 43, I didn't feel any different impulses. It's just that I realised I had finished the program, and then realistically to break a program, you've got to restart whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I introduced the porridge and the mashed potatoes and things like
Easy
that.
digestible.
And
Yeah.
then when you started eating the porridge, or when you ate the first porridge, what did your body say? How did it feel?
Well, what I did was I took the first spoonful, put it in my mouth, and I just let it sit there for a while until it almost, with the saliva, and then it just softened up to the point where it was just liquid. Because when you put porridge in, there's a little bit of lumps and density in there. But I very deliberately ate it slowly, and later on, when I learned about macrobiotics, I realised you've got to chew and turn it into liquid. And I just did that subconsciously, I think, I don't know. But I really let it sit in there, and then it just sort of slowly went down. And there was really no effect. It's just that I realised that at the end of the program, I've now got to start eating again. And probably because I was so slight by then, and you do look a bit gaunt, especially on the face, and I've got some photographs, and yeah, I do look like a scarecrow. Because you do. I mean, they go in, that disappears, and your eyes just become these great big...
The biggest body organ.
No, yeah, it's amazing. It's
During the fast, have you ever thought about dying? Like about the possibility of dying from the
no.
fast?
I'm not tragic like that at all.
Like you didn't think you're going to starve your body of
No.
nutrition?
I actually had a lot of confidence in it. You got to understand, in that first 2 weeks, I probably read 15 or 20 books about. They use the word alternative. I won't use that word because it's too stark. Other methods rather than the cut, the chemo, and the radiation. And I also read a book by Caroline Miss, and my sister gave me a book on hers, and also a series of 6 tapes which I listened to. I went for about 6 or 7 hours, and she described illnesses, and one of them was cancer in the prostate. And I think the second CD was all about cancer in the prostate. And as she went through the systems of how we create it by our thinking and our feelings, I thought that was me. So I was very convinced that I had created this, whatever it was. And all my life I've always thought, and my wife used to say that I'm an uncaring person, because I always used to say you create your own problems, you create your own illnesses. It's not coming from outwardly, you do it yourself. Now, all right, so I've lived for 57 years. Now, the doctor says, Stefan, you've got cancer. I can't very well accept his method, because all my life I've been saying it's self-created. I mean, so I had a natural, I think that's the word, a natural belief that suggested to me in here, right deep in there, that this is the way to go. So I was very confident in it. And I must admit, Anne was there, and she was a beautiful woman to look at. And when you've got something like that as well as a motivation, only because you want to live, because you want to enjoy a relationship. And that sort of gets into the equation as well. But it was just the confidence that I believed that this was for me. I'm saying for everybody else. And there were later on, and now if you ask me now, I wouldn't do it any other way. And I would actually, I actually try and resist telling people, if you get the diagnosis of cancer, stay away from doctors, stay away from chemo, stay away from surgery. I try not to say that because it's not fair. But deep down, that's what I feel. And instead, find yourself.
And it worked for you?
It worked for me, but it's not to say that it's going to, because it worked for me, it's going to work for you. But in the year and a half after I went through this, that was in 2005, in 2006, I met 2. One of them was my next door neighbour, and Robin, and there was another lady from Sydney. The 2 of them were both about the same age, mid-40s, and they were both diagnosed with cancer. And from the diagnosis of the one in Melbourne, I think she was in the coffin 3 or 4 months after diagnosis, and the other one was about 9 months. And that to me was very, very sad. All had chemo, they had surgery, they had it was, the sad part was because they both wanted to live. But especially Robin in Melbourne, what you do is when you start talking to people with this sort of stuff, and I guess I must have been the same, fear comes. And you can actually read it on a person's face. You can see the fear, cancer, or whatever other life-threatening thing you've got. And you actually can read this thing called fear, and it grips them so much, it controls everything. And that's what kills them. Now, again, my analysis, that's what kills them. And it was really so sad to see these two women, they didn't know each other, they had cancer right through their bodies, right? And to die so quickly. They both wanted to live. But I think it was more a case of they were fighting an external enemy. And it was very noticeable with Robin that I'm going to beat this with that sort of determination. I think that's what kills you. Because what you're doing is you're tensing up and you're fighting. And I think, I don't know, I think you've got to go the other way. I think you've actually got to ask the question, why is it in me? What has the Creator put in me? What have I put in myself? What am I meant to learn out of this? And then the equation changes. It's no longer fearful. Because you're now in a learning environment. You're asking yourself, I've got this. It's no different to saying, how can I cook scrambled eggs if you don't know? So you explore. Now, just because you've got a thing inside you that's going to kill you, if you leave it, but if you turn it around and say, now what am I supposed to be learning here? How can I examine it from a learning perspective? And that's why I read so much. And there's so much information out there. A lot of it's junk. But after you read and read, you start to filter out and sort it out and get to know what is probably not real, that's the wrong word.
What feels good to you?
What feels good. But you've got to let go of all those strong, I'm going to fight this thing, and actually look at it from the other perspective. This is a gift for me to learn something about me. And in the end, I think, this is what worked with me, I don't know if it'll work with him, but you end up finding this thing called love. And your whole life changes. And the love is not love that Hollywood has projected. It's a love of self. You end up loving you, me, I, this thing here. And then all of a sudden, because love is so generating, if that's a good way of putting it. No, but it actually generates energy and all sorts of wonderful, wonderful feelings. Then all of a sudden you say, this thing here that I'm travelling in, this taxi that I've hired for 60 or 70 or 80 years, I'm going to look after it. And then you transfer that to every other situation in life, and you don't want to hurt anyone or anything because you found this thing called love for yourself. And it just goes out and out and out. And your whole life is... And then even if I was to go back to Melbourne tomorrow or next week when I go back, and the doctor said, excuse me, Stefan, the cancer's gone right through you and I think you'll be dead in a week, it doesn't matter. Because you've gone to another place. You've already in another place. And this taxi is just a thing that we travel in. And all you are is thankful for this experience. Every day, I'll be honest, I am so grateful. And when I walk the beach with either my son or my daughter, as I have been the last few days, just the simple act of moving your hands and your feet, breathing, with a bit of sun, what more do you want?